Okay, we're on.
All
We're
right.
on.
Okay. Here we go. I'm the Organic Mechanic with Kelp4less.com. On the other side, the gentleman that needs no introduction, just the hydroweight champion of the world, Harley Smith.
Mhm.
Here we are again to talk about a bunch of stuff, and I got quite a bit of stories to tell this morning. So
Okay.
um, I'm I may do a lot of the talking while you sit back, and then you can hit us with all the important stuff when we're done
Okay.
here. But first thing I gotta say is we have a local giant pumpkin grower that invited the whole Kelp4less crew over to his house for a backyard tour of his patch, and it was awesome. It was so fun. A lot of the guys on our crew and on our staff have never witnessed anything like that before. So yeah, we went over. I took my wife with me too, and we even took some of our accounting personnel with us and everything. And boy, it was a fun time. It just it's astronomical the amount of labor that goes into growing a giant pumpkin. And boy, when these guys start at it, there's no let up. It's every day. They're serious, and their results, it shows. Their hard work shows the results. And it made us think about what could be accomplished with other fruits or other vegetables or other, gardening aspects if you put as much into your garden as the giant pumpkin people do. And it was spectacular. It's up to 1,200 pounds right now. And anyway, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's enough. 1,200 pounds. Yeah, I didn't not doing good this year. I'm gonna revamp some stuff for next year." Uh, but boy, kudos to all you guys that work so hard in your garden. And I'm not saying that other gardeners don't work hard. I'm not saying that. If you have a farm or a garden, I mean, you got to be attentive. It takes a lot of work, and so we all know what it takes to grow something good. But I'll tell you what, man, these pumpkin guys, boy, they live, breathe, night, day, all along. Have you ever experienced that? Have you went out to somebody's patch?
Um, Now, I actually haven't been to the patch itself, but I did about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was the educational speaker for the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers Association, and I got to hang out with everybody for a couple of days, and it was a pleasure to talk to those guys because they'll go, any little edge that they can find to improve the growth of the plant, they'll take it. And
Oh yeah,
the seeds, they even at the end, I was very fortunate because they do a little seed exchange for giant pumpkins because there's no substitute for genetics. If you're going to grow the best of the best, it's the genetics. They're selecting for bigger and bigger pumpkins. So I got to actually get some giant pumpkin seeds, and Sue took some of those seeds when she was teaching horticulture at a prison. She was a horticulture teacher at a prison here in Michigan, and they were growing a giant pumpkin at the prison. Now I wasn't allowed to come and visit, so I didn't get to see how it was going. But the, those prisoners were doing a lot of other horticulture stuff, but they were focused on it too because they were doing something that they've never done before. They were
that's
seeing some
cool.
results. They're putting in the effort, but look what's happening. And I used to joke. I said, "Oh, you're going to grow this 2,000-pound pumpkin, and some prisoners are going to, sneak inside and try to escape." No,
They
so I
could.
didn't personally get to visit the patch, but Sue was involved in the whole project one time with the giant pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so many thanks for that invite. And I've been to many farms and many greenhouses, and they're all good, and I love the invites. And boy, if we can, we'll always do that. And just a good experience for the Kelp4less crew here to kind of,
Hmm.
all the guys in the back and, everybody that's behind the scenes to actually see someone that's really dedicated into what they're growing. They don't get an opportunity to do that like I do as I travel around and meet with customers and things like that. So very good experience. Just want to say, give a shout out to him, and he's not looking for any notoriety or anything, but really fun time. I appreciate that. So I had to share that. That was a fun experience, and uh, just it's fun to see. A garden makes you happy. Any kind of garden, a well kept garden.
Hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, for me, even my just as a hobbyist, I mean, I've been doing R&D, as you know, for my whole life, or not my whole life, but the last 30 years. But my personal garden is a pleasure, and I would
Mhm.
recommend it to all our viewers. If you're doing outdoor gardening, if you're really into organics, really into that, just try to do an indoor garden, over the winter when you can't grow outside, and just learn what a pleasure it is. I think it's one of the best hobbies in the world. Full
Yeah.
spectrum light, fruit on the vine, aromatic herbs. It's just a pleasure to grow super healthy plants and watch them grow over the winter. Picking tomatoes ripe off the vine, cut, taking fresh basil, trimming it off right in your, right in your house, right in your dining room, and adding it at the last second to your maybe your seafood fettuccine alfredo or something.
Yeah.
But it's still
Oh yeah.
alive, and it just doesn't get any better. The quality and just the joy of growing. If you love to grow, why not grow in the winter? Scale back.
Hmm.
You don't
Hmm.
have to have a huge warehouse full of food, but just enough for your family. And Brandon, one little 2 foot by 4 foot or 3 by 4 garden with a 400-watt light, I could harvest. I mean, I could grow enough basil to support a French restaurant with
Hmm.
140 seating capacity. With a little
Yeah.
600-watt light, a little bit more intensity, I could harvest thousands of tomatoes in that small little unit over the course of the winter, picking them right. I'd have a
Yeah.
layer of ripe fruit, a layer of green fruit above that, a layer of flowers above that, all the time, all winter long. So it's fun. It is. And
That's good
being
for
able
you.
to, yeah, and also being able to have the wow factor when you share your produce in the middle of the winter in Michigan, when tomatoes are all picked green and imported and artificially ripened, and you have
Yeah.
one that's ripe off the vine,
Yeah.
there's a wow factor, and that's kind of
That's good
fun too.
stuff. It is good stuff. On those same lines, a couple of weeks ago, I took my wife out to a flower garden, and it's a local customer here that they probably have maybe an acre, a little bit less than an acre of all different kinds of variety of flowers, and it's this time of year. They charge 15 bucks. You can go there. They give you a vase and scissors, and you can go around and cut all these different kind of flowers that are all grown in one area and make your own, vase with flowers. And it has a nice little date. Take the wife too. We had we had a fun time, and it was neat to see all those varieties in one place. And it was so cool when we when she got finished, we took it home and kind of made a better arrangement. But boy, they lasted a long time in a vase, a long time. And I took just a minuscule amount of our ripe blend, which basically is a mixture of 41838 with a bunch of the organic acids and some other supplements in it. And I probably just put like, I don't know, an eighth of a teaspoon in the vase and stirred it up. And boy, those flowers lasted a long, long time compared to what we're used to seeing when you bring home flowers from the store or from a shop or something like that. And that was such a fun experience. Just the aroma and the smells and the colors, and everybody's all smiles. So there again, a garden brings so much more. All the things you can't duplicate in life. A garden can bring that. It was really neat.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Of course, me, I'm more focused on, oh yeah, the herbs and the vegetables and the food. And Sue, she does the flowers. She's growing flowers indoors. I'm like, flowers? I go, oh yeah, flowers. That's beautiful to the eye. Smell them. So we had a little different priorities, but we'd share. we do some flowers, we do some vegetables and things too, and just to round it out. And it was, it is nice to be able to surround yourself with life, and
Yes,
especially when it's outdoors, is gray on gray.
that's right. That's right. Great discussion. I better get to some of our questions that were sent in. So,
Oh,
in our discussion a couple weeks ago on hidden hunger, hidden hunger in plants,
hmm.
we we have a viewer that asked us a question that I'm sure you can address this, but the question is, he says, an interesting question. What is the function of stanols and sterols regarding plants, not human consumption?
Sterols.
Yeah, and this is above
I
my
don't know
pay
if I
grade,
can answer that.
way above my pay grade.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I really fully understand the question. Um, I
Well,
don't know. I don't have an answer
that
to
may
that
be
one. Do you?
a topic for another podcast that we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't know
All
what
right.
that would have to do. I really don't know how that relates to hidden hunger. When I
Okay.
think of hidden hunger, I think of a deficiency of something that's not doesn't have visual signs yet, but where the plants stall out. They don't have enough energy or enough transport to be able to continue or the acceleration of their metabolic processes. And the sterols are part of that process, but I've never really thought of it as an external um, act, uh, active ingredient in anything I've used in the past.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to another one regarding our integrated pest management podcast podcasts that we've done. Neem oil as a root drench? Question mark. Yeah. Let's see. Neem oil soil drench? Question mark. This is something I've never done. I've used a lot of neem oil topically, but as a soil drench, would that be effective in keeping eggs from hatching? Possibly. Pest eggs or things like that.
I don't. I doubt it. I mean, that's kind of why you use it on the leaves, is because it is an anti-feedant. It also is the active ingredient as a directant is
Hmm.
anti-feedant, and it helps prevent the bugs from molting and going into different stages of development. Down in the roots, I don't even know how much of that oils are going to be able to penetrate the root zone that much. And if they did, I have no idea if it's going to be effective or not. There's other, there's better ways to kill the larva in the soil, using things like predatory nematodes is a good one, or using something such as BT, BTI,
Yeah.
Bacillus thuringiensis,
Hmm.
that
Yep.
will kill larvae in the soil. You know, and or anything that you can do to on the surface that will, like diatomaceous earth, that the
Yes. Hmm.
insects have to crawl across or crawl
Hmm.
through to get to the next stage of reproduction. Neem
Hmm.
oil at the roots, I've never heard of anyone using it that way. I'm not going to say, oh no, there's nothing to it, but I would think that the effectiveness would would not be as good as other alternative treatments.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's good to address that. Now I have another interesting project that I'm working on that I'll keep you up to date on. This is very, very interesting. So, my brother's a field man, which means he's kind of like an acting agronomist. He goes out to the farms and works with the farmers and does recommendations for nutrients for his crops and soils and things like that. There's this one farm that he's worked with for quite a while, and they have some real trouble areas in the field that they can never get to produce. And they've tried a lot of different things. And anyway, so after the grain harvest this year, they went out to that field with a backhoe and they dug like 4 to 5 foot down trenches in these hard to find, hard to grow areas in the field. And what they found was astounding. About 3 foot down, there's just these white ribbons in the soil, different layers of white ribbons. And so you can actually cut a block, a square block of that out. And we took that block out, put it in a bag, and we're sending it in for soil testings. And we were talking about what that is, and I took some of that and took it out. I don't recommend people doing this, but I do all the time. And I tasted the soil where those white ribbons are, and it's 100% salt strips. So it
Ah,
tastes just like sodium chloride. So what we're doing, we're sending that in to find out a couple things. Is that residual salt nutrient that has been pushed down in the earth over the past 40 years from applications of high salt fertilizers? Or is this a natural salt deposit in the soil in these fields? And anyway, so we've sent that in. I just checked this morning. No, we haven't got the analysis back, but it's going to be very interesting to see what they find, if that's natural salt or if that's fertilizer residue from all the urea over the years, or all the potassium chloride over the years or whatnot. Very, very interesting. But these areas of the field never produce. So I'm kind of
mm.
thinking that it's a natural salt. It's a natural salt deposit in the earth in this part of the field. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Well, I've definitely here in Michigan heard about salt deposits because we have some that are, I mean, literally caverns deep of salt deposits, even under Detroit. So there's it used to be an ancient, I don't know how long ago, millions
Hmm.
of years ago, a shallow lake or shallow ocean. So there was a lot
Hmm.
of precipitation. But I have heard they're even doing water analysis up in central Michigan. That's where a lot of the oil wells are too.
Hmm.
Um, and we did water analysis, and it was just full of sodium chloride. The groundwater itself, just going
Uh-huh.
through pockets of the salt and picking that up and accumulating it in the groundwater. And
Hmm.
yeah, it can happen. And we do know that there are a lot of times we will get where you start, like what you were saying, you start to get some leaching, but then it gets to it, and it starts to build a layer,
Hmm.
and then it's hard for the roots even to penetrate that. It's
That's what's
those
happening.
layers, and that can be very restrictive, and that's where they get into a lot of the drainage tiles and those kinds of things in the field, is because they want to keep get the allow the roots to penetrate through those thin layers of buildup of precipitation. And it could salt could be part of that, or it could be other things too.
Yeah,
Caliche.
he said the roots come down, and you can see them. They almost just take a 90-degree curve and start going on top of that layer, which is
Hmm.
which is very interesting. But where this is located too, it's only about 200 miles from the Great Salt Lake in Utah too. So
Well,
maybe way back in time, that
yeah,
was a big salt runoff area too,
yeah,
drainage or something like that. But we're going to find out. It's fun. It's fun to find out these things because it's been a hassle for them. Well, the entire lifetime of them farming this field. So it'd be nice to really find out what's going on. And that was very good of the farmer to take a backhoe out there and dig the trenches just so we could have a view of it. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. That's pretty cool.
yeah. I know some um, farms will they'll like literally on purpose do a little bit of a trench just so they can examine the layers of the soil and the root growth in there. And sometimes that gives them uh, some some clues as how to improve their yields the next time, um, because they can see that the restriction of the roots, or they could see something maybe the potassium isn't getting deep enough into the root zone, and they'll use
Hmm.
some they'll come up with some different strategies to combat it. But those are
Right.
most of the time those are from the farmers that really want to win a world record for production or something like that, where they'll go the extra mile.
Right. 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 If it is nutrient based, if it is a nutrient base, um, that's eroded down there or leached down there or whatever, we kind of have a plan to go in and do a very, very deep plow, a deep till and a deep plow, and try to bring that up to the surface so they can be accessible to the plants. And I know that's a bad word right now in agriculture is plowing, but there are instances plowing is very, very beneficial. But if it is nutrient, we
Yeah,
are really going to turn it upside down and see if we can get the next crop to access those. But just kind of a cool story. I'll keep you up to date on, see what we find.
yeah. That's something interesting, maybe. Uh, Remember, I'm not the field agriculture guy. I'm the hydroponics guy. But there are some greenhouse or fertigation systems, maybe not a greenhouse, where they'll actually add a small amount of yucca to their extracts to their irrigation water because they say it helps keep the drip emitters clean. And as you know, yucca is a wetting agent and helps the water disperse through the root zone. And I love to use it in hydroponics because the the I don't get little pockets of salts building up over time in the growing medium. Water follows the path of least resistance. So, and what you're talking about, the water flows down and then it hits this layer and it flows sideways. And the roots go down with the water, flows sideways. But if you have a wetting agent, the water, instead of going through the same channels that it did the last time you irrigated, it'll
Mm-hmm.
spread out, disperse more in the root zone. And to me, I like that because it disperses the salts. Because if the
Mm-hmm.
water and nutrients go down the same path every time, then when it dries out, the nutrients in that little channel that it was going through the soil, it's going to dry up and form a little crust. The next time you irrigate, same thing's going to happen. Form a little more crust. Next thing you know, you have pockets of salt, and that can literally burn the roots, the root hairs that hit them. So that's where I do like yucca as a wetting because if it spreads out, it'll help disperse the roots more evenly, and it'll also help wash away any excess salt buildup over time. That's for fertigation, though, and irrigation.
Yeah, and that's one of your favorite tools to use too. We've discussed this before.
Yeah, I
Small
do
amounts
love it, and
often.
I always love it in hydroponics because I feel like the fertilizer and the biostimulants that I'm using are getting to all the developing root hairs, and that's where they're going to do
Right,
the most good.
right. That is important. That is important. Well, this was a good discussion. We're about time to wrap it up, and I should be getting those soil tests back today or tomorrow, so we'll be able to talk about this in next week's podcast too, because this is fun. We're going to learn a lot and see if that'll help somebody out there.
Yeah, and you've got me thinking a little bit more about what are what's the physiological activity of the sterols and what will stimulate that production. I haven't thought of that. I haven't done research on it, so it'll give me something to think about this week. I want to thank the viewers for their questions. I don't have all the answers, but at least it can make me curious to maybe learn something new. So I do appreciate those
Yeah.
questions from people out
Oh,
there.
exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is how we all learn. Everybody, you never stop learning.
Okay.
That's
Okay, well,
good.
see you next time, Brandon. Have a good one.
All right, Harley. Talk to you later. Thank you.